Hello, everybody. Welcome to Redwood Art Group Virtual Events, RAVE. My name is Eric Smith. I'm the owner and president of Redwood Art Group. I'm here with Hannah Smith, our social media manager. Hannah and I are so happy to have you joining us over the next 2 days. Each session is planned to last about 60 minutes or so. And we've learned a lot from our last events. RAVE Miami, San Diego, and New York. And one of the things we learned in our surveys was that the favorite things that people wanted to watch were the artist interviews. So we'll be speaking to lots of artists over the next 2 days.
Absolutely. We've got quite the lineup tonight, and we will be interviewing artists, stepping inside their studios and meeting some of Austin's movers and shakers.
And we're happy to have Pommery Champagne as our sponsor again.
And you just watched an incredible a video of the art installations they do throughout Maison Pommery in Champagne, France.
Maison Pommery has been a major player in the world of art since its creation, and to stay faithful to the memory and the will of Madame Pommery, they continue exhibiting contemporary art as their main thrust of their patronage. And that's their cellars down there where they add art and store the wine. It's totally cool, and I can't wait to get over there.
It is really cool, and their champagne is also incredible. So make sure to check out the Pommery story under the sponsors tab on the RAVE website. And we are coming to you tonight from Palm Desert, California, and I'm coming to you live from Austin, Texas. But more importantly, we want to know where you guys are tuning in from. So tell us in the chat box on the right side of your screen, and feel free to ask questions, make comments, and utilize that chat box throughout tonight's program. We will also be posting the booth link in the chat as we introduce each artist. So if you are live streaming and tuning in with us, make sure to open up a new tab so you can continue listening to us while also browsing their booth pages.
And each exhibitor booth has a guest page. If you like the work, let the artist know. Fill out the guest page. You can even make an appointment with the artist to learn more about their work and their life. And they keep all the sales, all the proceeds from the sales. So help support the artist tonight and check out some of the exhibitor booths. Something new we've added for RAVE Austin is a virtual art gallery for you to peruse. You can enter each exhibitor's gallery and move around just like walking through a live exhibition. You'll find it on the RAVE homepage as well as on each exhibitor's booth page. And on your screen will be instructions for navigation. I'd like to say easy peasy, and it is pretty easy, but the first time I got in, I had to push escape to get out. So keep that in mind if you want to get out. And remember, when you buy from the Redwood Marketplace, there's always free freight on work shipped within the United States.
So sit back, grab a cocktail or a drink of choice, and enjoy the next hour or so. Cheers.
Let's rave.
Earlier this week, we had the pleasure of meeting Curse Mackey and Andy Skoll, two of Austin's movers and shakers. And while Curse Mackey is a well-known as a musician, DJ, and performer of industrial and electronic music, having toured around the world, music and performances aren't the only staple in the environment that Curse has created for his fans. He's originally an architecture and interior design major at Texas State University. Visual arts has always been deeply intertwined with Curse's creative output, which has been magnified by the release of his debut solo album, Instant Exorcism.
Also joining us is Andy Skoll, an Asian American art director and producer, specializing in innovative project branding. She's the founder and creative producer of the Hope Outdoor Gallery, and Hope stands for Helping Other People Everywhere. It's a great campaign, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, so let's find out why Austin is one of 2021's top cities in the United States to visit. So thank you both so much for being with us today, both based in Austin, which is amazing. So you're both so involved in the art and culture scene in Austin. So can you tell us a little bit about, why Austin?
Go ahead, Andy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I love talking about our city. For me, I moved here in 1994, and I specifically knew that I wanted to become an art director, and majored in that in advertising at UT. So my love of this city has been going on for a couple decades, and really seeing how this is quite the creative mecca for the state of Texas and kind of for the United States now. So I like sharing that to kind of give some light to the specialness of Austin and how this has been going on for decades. And now we're seeing a really interesting kind of growth within the whole creative community on the planet. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I agree fully that Austin is a unique art entity in that, at least for me, I grew up in San Antonio, and Austin was like that great escape that you wanted to get to when you were just old enough to drive and get up to get into that legendary mystique that Austin, Texas had. I ended up going to school at Texas State University as an architecture interior design major, but I just found that I was quickly gravitating more towards music and production related to music and studio design and creating live events. And Austin really had that going on. And as Andy was saying, it's evolved almost into its own epicenter of art and music today, but it took really 30 years of people laying the foundation of what maybe the live music capital of the world as a concept meant, both on a kind of creative, cultural, and artistic level for like Austin in the 90s and 2000s, and maybe even before then. And then now today, it's a much more advanced technological, super city in the making. But at the end of the day, it took that early grassroots level of bohemian art and vision, when none of that existed a long time ago, to create the city that we have today. And it's very embracing of new ideas and new people, and also has a longing to hang on to the nostalgia of what it was, and at least it still has that. So we're at a really interesting time. So why Austin? I mean, you could ask a million different people that and probably get a million different answers. But for me, like Andy said, it's really just a cultural heart for my creative output, and I just grew up in this area, so it's exciting to see it advance to where it's at today.
And that whole bohemian feel is still there, right? Even with the huge growth of Austin over the last few years.
Well, it's definitely holding on as best it can, and I'll jump in here. In the few decades that I've been here, I haven't ever seen it kind of dwindle as quickly. And another part that was so great for me coming here in my teenage years was that it was centrally located, so you could quickly get to New York City or quickly get to LA, or even travel to Europe or Asia. It's just a kind of difference for being an American. And now I think that's also the same reason why we're seeing such a huge influx, but for bigger and different reasons than just the accessibility. So it's hanging on there. I really do think that we're going to pull through just fine, though. It's going to take a little bit more of a group effort than in the past, but I think that a lot of us are really working on that and feel the support of a lot of the new people coming. So that's good.
Yeah, and a lot of those larger companies, we work with UBS for Art San Diego and some other large companies. They can help, and they are moving to Austin. I mean, Hannah's boyfriend Ed works for Google, and they're in Austin, right? And another friend of ours just got hired at Google, and she's supposed to move to Austin. So, but I think a lot of those larger companies they appreciate the arts and culture, and they can assist in that in the future. Yeah. So it's been a difficult 15 months, and of course we were just talking about how we do live events and you do live events. So tell us what innovations you've been working on and what you see, what's coming up, what's in store.
Sure. Well, after the reckoning that we all faced, for me personally, and I won't go too far into like the woes of being an artist in a pandemic, because we've all experienced our own variations and versions of cancellation and depression and all of those. Like, well, what? And I was just had so much going on. What now? The sky is falling, type of thing. But for me, being on tour, it took me a little bit of time to kind of grasp, like, okay, there's a delay. I've lost a month of shows. Now all of my summer shows are gone. Now I'm off tour for I'm watching 100+ shows go away. So each one of those comes with its own little emotional reminder of now I've got to find a new plan. Ultimately, I just embedded further in the art that I needed to make anyway, since I wasn't playing shows and I had time to get further ahead on writing my next record, working on the art for that record, going deeper into what all of my art means, and researching and reading and making more art. So I got to do all of the things that I would need to do for my art if I wasn't touring at the time that I was supposed to be touring. So all that was good. Along with that, my girlfriend, Rona Rougeheart, from a local band called Sign, she's also an awesome designer and videographer. So we together started working with Austin Public, who is a local television station funded by the Cultural Arts Division here in Austin. Rona led the charge, signed up for their producer program. So we ended up becoming TV producers this year and produced 2 seasons of a television show called Villains Wear Black Presents. And it's essentially a music and art variety show, much like MTV 120 Minutes or USA's Night Flight, if you remember that show. So it's just showing cool esoteric art films and movie trailers and fresh videos. So that was kind of our version of putting on live events, was creating an actual television station and learning how to produce TV at the level of broadcast television, not just doing YouTube videos, but really working with 6K cameras, Blackmagic design equipment, learning how to live stream all of that with multi-camera camera switching and lower thirds and intros and all of that. So really, that was sort of the shift of, now we've added this skill to our arsenal that when we go back out into live events, we can always bring a live streaming rig with us or add that extra added value component during the day. Like, hey, let's go ahead and we're sound checking. Let's go ahead and do that for all of our Patreon followers or something like that. So I think along with the pain of missing out on a lot of things, there was also an opportunity to just add more value to the toolbox on what I can do for myself or in collaboration with other artists, and also for my clients that often need live event services. And when they can't have live events, I had to learn how to produce virtual events and make things look and sound great and all of that. So there's just a whole nother level of production that ends up happening, another layer that from an artist perspective, when you're producing all of your own shows, then now not only do you have to bring it all to life for the audience within the room, there's also how do you make that sound great and look fantastic for the person watching in Tokyo or Seattle, wherever they might be. So the nice thing is that it did open up localized events to a worldwide audience. And now we just have to continue to evolve and make it all work, I guess, ultimately at an economic sustainability level, rather than just being a Band-Aid for last year.
We're working on that too. We've all learned a lot during the pandemic. Even these virtual events that we did, we had 3,500 people on our first event, and they've all exceeded over 1,500, and it's been a way for people to stay in touch with art during the pandemic. So again, thanks for joining us, both of you today. So Hannah, you have one more question?
Yeah, so Austin is really on all of the top travel industry's list of top 10 places to visit in 2021. So what is shaking to make it one of those gotta go destinations? And why do you think there is such a draw for people to come here who don't live here?
Well, we definitely, even before, were a huge, tourist destination. Kind of fun fact, Austin has always been the top bachelor and bachelorette party spot. And again, going back to us just being centrally located, I think also, again, being the capital of one of the largest states in the United States, and Texas being a pretty big cultural force on its own, it just kind of drives, you know, just even the people that live in Texas to always come to this city. And then going back to pandemic, and you know, a lot of our other cities have gone through some really dramatic changes, not that we haven't or other cities haven't as well, but in terms of metropolitans like LA and San Francisco and New York, we've discovered a lot of our creative friends kind of coming here just to escape where they've been. So I think that's one part. For me, I can add that you know, we've been building the new Hope Outdoor Gallery, which for years was one of the top tourist destinations for the city in terms of an art component, and then for locals and for artists. And that's very exciting for us. You know, during COVID, we decided to pause construction, but focus on really looking at more ways that maybe we could help more artists in some of the creative class. And we also decided to make 40,000 earth bricks out of the earth on our land during COVID, which then, you know, our park design spells the word hope from the sky, which is directly across from the Austin airport. But now with our earthen bricks, it's made us the largest earthen brick project in Texas history. Yeah, so we ended up using the time to, we launched a Hope for Health campaign and started some of the boarded up businesses downtown beautify their spots by commissioning artists to put murals on them instead. Then we, you know, added other program aspects to the park during this time, again, focusing on a lot of our creative class brothers and sisters and what their needs are. So I think that a lot of this is what attracts people to not just Austin, but any city. The more arts, you know, when you travel, you want to taste the food, you want to hear the music, and you want to see the arts and culture. And Austin has a lot of that. And that's what people are really interested in.
So Hope, Andy, stands for helping other people everywhere, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and we, thank you. It's really, you know, when we started it in 2006, I partnered with Shepard Ferry, a dear friend, him and his wife, and they are involved in the new art park as well. And we had noticed that. Even yesterday, I stopped by a show at a new gallery that's starting to carry a lot more street art and public art. So I got to hang out with my buddy, Say Adams, who's just a huge historic figure in the art world. But, you know, all of these artists are starting to come to Austin, and Hope is definitely going to play even more of a part in that to support them. So.
Well, we know a lot of street artists. We worked with Keith Haring and Andy Warhol in the 80s before they both passed away, very close to each other, in fact, and did some projects with them. So yeah, maybe we should talk later off camera. I can like to help out if we can. So Anna, do you have anything else? Curse?
Well, I wanted to just support what Andy had to say, that I feel like Hope Gallery, in its, you know, I guess the original form and where it's headed now into becoming, it was almost to me like just a gathering spot where you could take a friend from out of town and kind of go draw on a wall without a lot of, it's a great place to go try art and try public art in a safe space that encourages it. And it really became an important part of Austin downtown. And now with her actually taking it to a grand scale, I think it's an incredible, again, just it's a campus and a gathering spot conceptually as well as physically, where all of us creative types in Austin, Texas kind of have a home under her leadership and the team that she's built. And where it's going to go now, it really transcends being this cool little hidden spot that you almost had to discover to now it's a real figurehead by the Austin airport. And as we transition in a lot of ways from being the live music capital of the world to becoming something much different than that, but still trying to maintain that, having a public art facility like Hope is crucial, and the fact that it's by the airport really helps set the stage for what we can be in the future. So a lot of respect to you, Andy, for all of your efforts. And I know that this has been a challenging time during COVID and trying to build something that requires permitting and construction and dealing with the city and all of that, which I dealt with a lot when we were founding the Mosaic Sound Collective. But I just think it's incredible, and I'm super excited for you. So thanks for all you do.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see it too, especially when traveling. I think people coming into the city will be just so curious as to what it is.
Yeah,
Yep.
Definitely.
Well, I think that's a wrap. You guys did a great job. Thanks for joining us. And next time I get to Austin to visit Hannah, I'll make sure we knock on both your doors and we can all have dinner or something.
Looking forward to that, Eric. Make it sooner than later.
All right.
Yeah, please do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We had so much fun chatting with Kirsten and Andy, and I personally cannot wait to check out the Hope Outdoor Gallery.
Yeah, and now I got to remember to make dinner reservations so we
Exactly.
So let's go to Montreal, Canada, and step inside the studio of an artist who I have personally known for over 25 years, Mr. Samir Samoon.
Yes, Samir has been exhibiting at Art Expo New York, I think before I was even born, where he met and continues to maintain a large base of collectors from all over the world. And we had the opportunity to talk to Samir about his childhood, among many other things, in a recent interview from his studio. So I think you will all enjoy hearing about Samir's story.
Play it, Laura. So Samir, you've been so successful at our shows. What do you, and there's a painting behind you, one of your paintings, beautiful. What do you attribute your success to?
Well, I mean, the main part of it come from Art Expo New York, really. Well, I started painting in the 80s, but in 96, you guys came to Montreal while I was doing a show. And you said, I don't remember who came to my booth, and he said, why don't you come to New York? I think you will have success. And I said, well, let's do it. So I actually, in 96, I started. And but since then, I met practically all the gallery that I have all over the US at your show. And thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's, I couldn't have done it if I was just showing my work in Montreal in the US. That was a tremendous exposure. Of course, I mean, yeah, go ahead, Anna. You wanted to ask?
I do, yeah. Your work is beautiful and your landscapes are, incredible. Can you tell us a little bit about your travels and where you gather all your inspiration?
Yeah, mainly they are from few places that I really love, and I have like affection and connection with. Like first is my hometown in Lebanon. It's called June, where they grow very old olive trees. And this painting behind me is actually my olive tree, and the wheat field just it was in front of it, and I was walking down there with my father, and I just made a sketch of that field, and I asked my father, "What is this road there?" He said, "Well, I mean, they're probably some wild animal. They went there, and so from June, this is my hometown. There is another a couple of other places in Lebanon. One is my mother hometown. It's not far from June. It's about, I would say, 8 miles. And then on the Mediterranean shore, after that, we jumped to Montreal. And this is where, I mean, like a lot of my painting come from around the forest where I live, like the autumn scene and the place called Mount Saint-Hilaire, where I paint in plein air, the apple orchard. And the Montérégie is a big kind of plain, and there is a lot of wonderful landscape with all kind of lupins. They grow there, and lavenders and mustard field. Tuscany is another place that I love very much. I go there every year. And Florida, the beaches, they come from there. And I do paint Boston a lot. I did paint because there is Gallery d'Orsay in Boston. They're very successful, and they asked me to do Boston, like especially the park. All right, so of course I do other scenery from Europe, from Paris, from New York. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the viewers can see if you slide over a little bit, Samir. I want to see that path that goes through the. Yeah, there you go. There's a path that goes through that field, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And the viewers can see that you paint in a somewhat impressionist style, plein air painting, many paintings you paint outside. Well, I want to encourage the viewers to view your webpage, because when I stand in front, Samir takes a pretty large stand at our New York shows in Miami every year. And when I stand in front of your paintings, you've done a great job capturing even that painting behind you. You can feel the wind blowing. You can feel the heat in the air. You do a great job with the work of the lighter colors, white, in creating light. I just want to thank you for being a part of Art Expo and the Redwood Art Group family for so long. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for what you're doing for artists, emerging artists. And Art Expo is a very important platform for all artists to participate, because this is where they actually meet the galleries and meet the public, and it's always a joy. And looking forward for our next event, live, Eric.
Yeah.
And we're back. I agree with Samir. I can't wait to get back to live events.
Me too.
Oh my goodness.
Me too.
We have our first live event September 10th in Brooklyn. And then we go to San Diego, back to New York, and then Miami. So we have 5 events between now and the end of the year. I can't wait. It's going to be a rockin' sock'em fall quarter. So our next topic is focusing on oversized works. Large works of art have become popular over the past decade. And we've gathered 2 artists, Kathleen Werner and Julia Hacker, to share their experience in creating large works of art. Let's go ahead and view that, Laura. Well, welcome everybody. I see you're both sitting in front of your paintings, which is outstanding. They look great. And they're larger works, and that's what we're here to talk about. So it seems to me like larger works have become more popular over the past decade. I mean, I remember selling works in the 80s and 90s. Even Warhols were 40 by 40, getting a little bit bigger, but they've become much larger. Do you think that's the case? Let's start with you, Julia.
Well, probably it's not the case in my case, because I don't really follow the trends, but being current means that you're aware of it. For me, working on a larger scale happened rather organically, probably while developing my own voice and subconscious desire to be heard. When you crank the music louder, people pay attention. So, in my opinion, COVID restriction really forced people to stay home and be internally tuned in. And what I would say is that being confined in certain rooms, in certain homes, interior got a new meaning beside just aesthetics. I think that people realize that it's actually surrounding affects their well-being. So for me, putting a large-scale painting creates an experience. It's not something because experience. It's exactly what we were stripped of during the COVID, right? We had things, but we didn't have experience. So that's what is a large-scale painting presents for me. And I also think that it's an escape. It creates opportunity for people to escape because the work of that scale is mesmerizing, and it takes time, and it's sometimes you might not see things for a month, and all of a sudden you find a hidden meaning or hidden intricate details. And that's why I think that especially nowadays it's a current direction. At least that's how I feel it going.
Yeah, very good. How about you, Kathleen? You paint in large scale works. We can see some of them behind you.
Yeah, pretty much exclusively. I think it's a trend I can appreciate, for one, because I not only do large paintings, and it's one that I think is going to continue because you see all these people that are, especially now, moving out of the city, and they're moving into big houses because they can afford it considering the rent they were paying in the city. I can speak from personal experience from that. We moved from New York to Raleigh, North Carolina, and we have a lot of big walls to fill out here. And I think people see these big empty walls now, and they want something when people walk into their homes to be this stunning feature piece. And I think we're just going to keep seeing that more and more. And I don't know, I like it because that's what I do.
Yeah, and your work looks good in the larger scale, that's for sure. Yeah, and people want to make a statement with a big piece, you know. Another couple that is on our website and does many of our shows, Angela and Chris Gebhardt, paint in very large scale pieces. In fact, we have one, it's 8 feet by 8 feet. And their success over the last couple of years has really blossomed. And, you know, they're selling their works for $10,000, $20,000, $25,000. So people are paying that kind of money for a big statement piece, which is great.
Mm-hmm. And I personally love the larger pieces. I think they dominate a room and kind of tell, you know, all artwork tells a story, but can you tell us a little bit about some of your favorite large pieces that you've created? Julia, we can start with you.
I can say a bit about this particular artwork. It's called Do Not Look Back, Orpheus. Orpheus is a Greek myth, hero from the Greek myth, right? And I mean, it's a well-known story. When he was tempted to look back and lost a precious wife of his. But for me, it's a little bit more analogy about how we women very often create a mosaic of beautiful memories of stories that happened to us, and we cannot move on. We dwell on it, and sometimes it's a time. Sometimes it's a moment when you have not to look back, not to dwell on the past, and so in this work I created, like, it's lots and lots of textures, and I do acrylic transfer, so it's lots of little details. So my work is really deserves time to observe, but because it has so many shimmering colors and interesting textures and playfulness that you want to look again and again. But it just, for me, it's a reminder that sometimes we stuck on the small details, no matter how beautiful they are. And you have to have a courage to move on. So that's the story about my work. And on top of it, I'm very often affected by audiobooks that I listen. That's what I do. Some people listen to music, I listen to audiobooks and stories, and then in my head there is new stories from the stories.
I love it. And what about you, Kathleen? What is one of your favorite large pieces you've created?
Favorite card. I really tend to fall in love with pretty much everything I create. You know, you're working on these things and you think it's the best thing you've ever done until you do the next one, which is also the best thing you've ever done. But I think this is one of my kind of current favorites. You can see it. It's a 5 foot by 5 foot piece. And it's really fun to work on these large pieces. And I kind of rigged a way to do it that is somewhat unique. I put down these 8 foot long pieces of wood onto kind of a giant lazy Susan, I guess. And I can work on it by spinning it around, and I can get these really fluid circles that way. And a lot of the stuff I do is, well, pretty much everything is, you know, hand drawn, other than the basic layout I'll do with some drafting tools. But it's really hard to say a favorite. There's, oh, hold on, I put this one over here too. This one is a 6 foot by 6 foot over there, that black one. And I actually used all different colors of black. And I know some of it even looks a little bit light, but that's a black wax. So it has different sheens, but I use the as blackest black that we can get right now, because the blackest black is kind of not on the market, but black 3.0, different sheens of black, different textures of black. So I'm kind of going through a moody period, maybe, I don't know. But that one was actually, I was working on that one in the video that you saw before. And that's the finished product on that guy. But like I said, everything I do is very large, and every one of them is kind of my favorite. And I always hate to see them when they sell and go, because it's like giving away.
Yeah. I thought when Hannah asked you that question, what was your favorite piece? You were going to say the last one I sold.
It always is. It always is. Actually, one of the bigger ones that I've done is a 6 foot by 12 foot. And it's kind of 2 6 by 6s, but they go together because it's like kind of a flipped, mirrored, symmetrical image of the other. So you get this just amazing, huge, it needs to be on a, you know, lobby of a grand hotel or something like that, but the bigger the better.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. You know, we had a couple artists that were going to join us today. Risk, who's doing his Austin art exhibit, ironically during the same time, and Alexis Silk is another one of our artists that loves to work in amazingly large pieces, a little bit different of a medium. She's a sculpture glass artist, and she just had her second child, so she couldn't be with us tonight. So she's always pushing the boundaries of what's possible, sculpting freehand while the glass is hot. And we are going to take a second to take a look at her video. And thank you to all of us who were here with us today. It was great to talk to you and see your faces, and love seeing the artwork behind you as well. So for those watching, if you want to visit their booth pages, let them know your favorite piece and even add one to your collection. That would be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It was so great speaking to Kathleen and Julia, and the way she creates her pieces is so incredible. I'm just so mesmerized watching her video. But as we mentioned in the interview, two other artists who work in large scale pieces are Risk and Alexis Silk. So we highly recommend checking out their booth pages and writing them a little note to let them know that you love their pieces. And we have one more in-studio visit today, and we are going to get the chance to talk to Anna Leal. Excuse me.
That's right. But before we go there, I have to tell you, Hannah, a couple of years ago, I was with Alexis, and I've seen her a lot in my life. And I walk up to her and I go, "Have you been working out or what? Look at your arm." And she looks at me and she goes, "Have you seen the heavy glass that I work with every day?" And I'm like,
I know, it's like the ultimate workout, but you're working at the same time.
Yeah. So Hannah's right. We had the chance to visit with Anna Leal in her studio way south in Sao Paulo, Brazil. She's a very interesting abstract minimalist whose art starts with photography. And because of the time difference, we recorded this video recently. So let's play it for everyone, Laura. Hi, so I'm here with Anna Leal, coming to us all the way from Sao Paulo. Welcome, Anna.
Hi.
How are you tonight?
Yes, I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
Well, thanks for joining us. So how long have you been working in photography?
Well, actually, I do have an entire different background. I have a BA in economics and an MBA in marketing. So I have this, all different career until up recent years. And then I decided to shift a little bit. Photography has always been a passion for me. And then around 2013, I decided to pursue this passion. So I did a BA here in Sao Paulo. And then in 2016, I moved with my family to Miami. And I ended up doing an MFA also there. And I always loved photography since I was very young. But I always knew, I had never studied before. And I knew photography as a register, as registering things like the formal qualities as like photography really began. So when I did my BA, I was completely hooked when I saw, all the other possibilities that photography could, give us, like any other media. I mean, and I was pretty much influenced by the concretism movement in Brazil. So my work is very minimalist. It has a lot of abstraction to it, because I do think that, photography has many ways to go.
Yeah, I love the work. It's really powerful, especially when you see it on a wall. You walk in a room, you're going to notice your work. It's terrific. So tell us a little bit about the process. You start by taking a picture of even a landscape, right?
Yes, I do. Most of my inspiration comes from either landscape or everyday, scenery. This body of work specifically that I'm showing here at RAVE, it's called Psychological Landscapes. And it's a series that it's very abstracted again. And it all starts with an image from an actual landscape. The images were all captured at Yellowstone National Park and at the Grand Teton. So at first they were like those traditional landscape photographs, like lakes, mountains, and then I start with this digital process. I do the collage, the blurring, and this whole process. It takes a while, and but the result are those abstracted and very ethereal. I think it's
Right.
yeah, a lot of color. There's a nice color palette, I think. And it's funny. One thing that I do not change are actually the colors. The colors you see are the colors that are there at the parks. So this is the only thing. This is those are the colors from nature.
Well, that piece behind you is beautiful. I love the gradation, and it reminds me of, Mark Rothko painted landscapes, and you had to create a little imagination in your mind to kind of figure out that it was a landscape, and your work reminds me of that. I really thought it was.
Rothko, it's a huge influence on me. I mean, I love his work, and the name of the pieces. I name them as like feelings, because the name of this series is called Psychological Landscapes, because they are supposed to represent like our feelings or our moods. For example, the one that you see in behind me is called Blurry Blues, when you're feeling kind of blue. And then you have Blurry Joy, Blurry Calm, Blurry Serene, and so on.
Yeah. And the viewers on our event today can certainly see all those pieces on our site and get in touch with you if they want to purchase some. Your prices are really reasonable. I thought they were actually kind of low, but that's easy for the collectors to pick up. Yeah. The work, to see that work on a wall is just terrific. It really pops when you walk into the room. It's really good.
I'm really glad to be here. And I think it's going to be a great event.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, Anna, all the way from Sao Paulo. We really appreciate it.
Her work is so interesting to me, and I personally adore her pieces. They're simple, they're elegant, and I think they would look incredible on any wall, as you mentioned in the interview. So be sure to check out her booth. And now on to another art talk.
So when you say mixed media, it means different things to artists and collectors. And artists like Angela Gonzalez, Shalon Grant, Ben Olson from the Chuck Jones Gallery will share what it means to each of them and how they incorporate multiple mediums into their works of art. Let's hit it. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And we're going to jump right into our mixed media session here. So, Shalon, let's start with you. Why did you choose like mixed media for your type of work that you do?
Well, I just like the diversity of it. I like to play with things, create different effects by mixing things together. My mixed media is more of a kind of a wet dry. So I use a lot of different types of wet paints and then mix it with some dry materials like, waxes and crayons and paint pens and, a variety of things like that. But I do a lot of different types of paints when I create, and I just really, really enjoy the final effect and how they work by mixing together. So I just kind of had fun. I just have fun with it.
Yeah, I like your pieces that you paint reverse on the plexiglass. They really pop. And it's noticeable when you're using mixed media because it just doesn't look like a regular foil or acrylic painting. Ben, how about you? Why did you choose mixed media?
So I like experimenting with different media types depending on what I want to accomplish. I love the kind of kinetic randomness of watercolor when you mix certain things and just the chemical reaction that doesn't always work the way you think you want it to work, but something really cool comes out of it. I love oils because of how long I can work with them. which is what frustrates me about acrylics and why I do a totally different style on acrylics. Because if it's going to dry in a minute, I better be quick.
Yeah, I know. And with watercolors, you really can't make too many mistakes or it just turns black, right?
Yeah, it's you start to learn real quick. You can only keep the paper wet for so long, and pretty much it all just becomes one color.
Yeah. Angela, how about you? I can see a piece behind you that looks like it's got some different mediums in it.
Yes, I've been using a lot of materials for many, many years. Well, because it's not hard for me to throw things away because I always say, I'm gonna use it sometime. Oh, I will give it away. So, but that usually doesn't happen. So anyways, the paint itself, it's I don't use any mediums to make the paint thicker. I use the paint itself. So I spend a lot of paint because I like it. The final effect is different. The color changes, and but still for me looked like flat. You see, so I incorporated different elements, anything, paper. Instead of throwing away, I will save it. Metal that is rusted from my mother's house. I don't throw anything. Not hardly, but not hardly everything. But I keep a lot of stuff. Wood, plastic, anything. Especially, I was working between 2018 and 2019 on this very big exhibition in Oaxaca, and it was called Abundance. As a matter of fact, some of the pieces I showed in San Diego show in 2018, if you can remember. So that was called Abundance. So it's like garbage in wherever you go, there's garbage. The music, all the signs on the streets, the garbage that you throw away. Sometimes the words that we use are nonsense. It doesn't have any feeling. So I thought, well, how am I gonna say? I'm not gonna say garbage. I will say abundance of things that we don't really need, and let's try to do something useful to them and create conscience to people that can see it and will ask why. So that's the reason. And the one behind me, it's a big piece that it's finished, but I just need to work on the dress a little bit because it was that's gonna be for a competition. So that's about 100 feet or inches, right?
Yeah.
So that one is somebody gave me this big mannequin, and that particular triennale that is gonna be here in Tijuana. The first prize will be $50,000. The second, the third will be like I will say like 15,000. Not not too bad. But the point of that triennale, and that's where I'm trying to tell you why it's getting so important now, the mixed media and the 3D, I think is relevant. Please tell me if I'm talking too much, please.
No, that was a good explanation. You kind of got a feeling on how you work there. I know you also work with sewing and stuff too, and mixed media, so that's good.
Yeah, it kind of jumps into our next question. I think the reason we love mixed media so much is because it's so unique to each individual artist. So I'm sure everyone wants to know a little bit about your construction process. So Angela, I guess we'll start with you on how you construct your pieces.
Okay, well, the construction goes first from a theme. It's a concept, because in order to submit paintings to I'm gonna say important gallery, or a museum, you have to come up with a good concept first. And then after the concept and the investigation or whatever, it takes a long time. And that's the hardest part for me. That's the hardest, because it has to be something ingenious, something to do with contemporary art, what's going on in the world today, not killing people, or we're tired of that. We have to come up with a concept and try to look from the negative side, according to my perspective, put it into the positive side. Okay, what are we gonna do about it? So usually most of my work is based on that concept. and those concepts. And then the one behind me with the mannequin talks about fashion. That I was I'm gonna enter it in well, I entered and I was how do you say that? I was approved to be shown in Secut. So I'm just waiting for the big prize. That's what I'm waiting for. At least a so that one, it's because fashion is the number 2 contaminated contamination thing that we have in the world. Number 2, second place, worldwide. So I did that on the pandemic, and I thought with the pandemic, oh, everybody's in the house. Nobody's gonna go and buy things. Oh, my concept is not work. It's not gonna work anymore. And then I started to investigate again, and guess what? It went up the sky, buying on internet.
Yeah.
Second place, contaminated. Great. First one is China, the second one in the United States. But considering that United States is this big and China is this big, guess who has the first place? United States. So it's interesting. So
that is interesting. I liked how you think of a theme and then it constructs from there. That's pretty good.
Yes.
How about you, Ben?
So I go from concept, like the idea, you gotta have a story behind the piece, similar, and then getting into concept sketches. So when I'm doing stuff for, say, the Chuck Jones galleries, for one, I love working with the Looney Tunes because I grew up watching those. I still watch those as an adult, and they still are just as funny. But it's got to come into some line of what, right? Yeah, I think we all like. There's still favorites that we have. My little kids still watch the old stuff. The new stuff isn't as funny. And what I loved about that was Chuck and Mike, they would write stuff where it was funny for them, right? And if it was funny for them and they weren't talking at a child's level, then, you know, clearly it worked because you and I are still watching this and getting a kick out of it. So I look for like a storyline and something in a moment, maybe in one of his films that is like funny to me or has some kind of like twist to it. And I'll submit my concept sketches. I'll either get notes or I will get rejected on that sketch, or I will get approved. And then from there, I go to paint. So it's a pretty smooth process. They give me a wide berth to do, kind of come up with anything that I want. They give some really great notes. Most of my stuff gets approved. And then we go to paint.
And what about you, Shalane?
Well, I have a few different processes, but the one that I demonstrated, I think, for the last show was, cutting and pulling off pieces of the plastic connected to the plexiglass and then painting in layers there. And I mean, as far as my concept, I paint to music a lot. So a lot of my paintings will have something connected to music or an experience or, kind of an emotional experience that I've had in my life. So that's how I come up with concept. And then I generally just start, painting and playing with different materials and talking about watercolor earlier. When I work on plexi, I can use watercolor, I can let it dry, and then I can re-wet it. And it changes into different elements. So it's really fun. Yeah.
Awesome. And mixed media often creates that sort of 3D effect. Sometimes it is 3D and sometimes it's not. So tell us how you approach that aspect of creating your work. Angela, we'll start with you.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again for me, please? I was
Sure. How do you achieve the 3D effect that mixed media gives off?
Well, of all that, all the elements that they're there because they're objects. Like it could go some areas about this thick, you can see them. You can see, you touch, it's not gonna be plain at all. Because actually for me, 3D means 3D, exactly 3D. It has to go, it has to not be on the flat level. As a matter of fact, lately, actually this triennale is based about trying to go off the regular painting, be more contemporary. So you had to do something that it was painting or related to paint. Like I could even submit something on textile, because textiles are, the embroidery and the textiles mean a painting with threads, which is another way of painting. So this is how the art, the movement is, changing. I mean, not changing, but coming up with new ideas and bringing the painting, giving a painting a different point of view, the way that you see it and the way that the artist will manifest its ideas on whatever he wants to create.
Very good.
What about you, Ben?
I'm looking for more of like the 3D elements kind of have to make sense with the subject matter. So I'll paint to bring a 3D effect out. But if I want something a little bit more tangible, if I'm doing rock surfaces or something like that, or I'm conveying an emotion with it, something's a little tense, it's a little choppy, it might be a little coarser and, come out a little bit. It all kind of depends on the storyline to it, as far as how 3-dimensional I want it to pop out of the piece.
And
Do you have
Shalane?
anything to add, Shalane?
Well, for me, I don't add too many objects to, or 3D elements to, because the plexi, it's got to be able to hold the weight and adhere to it. It's unlike canvas or some of the like other materials that might be a little more conducive to a real big 3D. So my 3D is more related to the different elements and types of paint that I use, like the wet, dry paints that I talked about earlier. So yeah, I mean, I do put a backing on my plexi so that they kind of float against the wall. You don't have a frame on them. So, that might give it a little bit of a more of a 3D element, so to speak.
Well, very good. It's been informative, and I'm sure our audience has learned about mixed media a little bit more. So, and I want to encourage the audience, if you're interested to see their work, just go to the RAVE site and you can visit their pages. We had one more artist, Linnea Pergola, who couldn't be with us today, but she fits into this conversation perfectly with her watercolor and ink painting. She does use different mediums, mixed media. And we're going to take a look into her studio, and she's got like a 1 minute and 15-second video on a speed painting that she did that's pretty interesting. So let's do that now.
And thank you everyone so much for being with us today. It's been so great to talk to you all, and we hope to see you at one of our Redwood art fairs soon, coming up in the next couple months. So for the audience watching, be sure to visit these artist booth pages, send them a note, let them know which piece you love, and you can connect with them and hopefully add a new collection to your home.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you all. We're doing a great job. Thank you, artists.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So be sure to check out all of the artwork from today's artists and all of our RAVE exhibitors on the RAVE website in their booth pages. From innovative galleries to today's top independent artists, have a personal visit with them by arranging an appointment with them from their guest book. And even if you're traveling this summer and, say one of the artists lives in Toronto and you happen to go to Toronto, reach out to them in their guest book and let them know that you want to meet up and see some more of your work. And who knows, you might add a new piece to your collection.
And join us tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern for more dialogue on Austin arts and culture.
Now stay with us a little bit longer for a terrific interview with our Director of Marketing, Linda Mariano, and an artist and her inspiration for the innovative Brushes with Cancer program.
And I just wanted to break in and thank everyone in the chat. As always, we appreciate it so much. We've got Minda from Albuquerque, Julia from Toronto, and Anna from Brazil. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Yep. See you tomorrow.
Well, welcome, ladies. It's so great to see you and have you with us this evening. Listen, I want to tell the audience a little bit. Twist Out Cancer is one of the sponsors for our RAVE events, and we're really so excited to be connected with them. One of the reasons that I was so interested in Twist Out Cancer is because of the Brushes with Cancer program. And what I loved about that is not only the pairing of the artist with a cancer patient, and that cancer patient might be a cancer survivor, someone who is currently dealing with cancer, or someone who is a previvor. In other words, someone who has the propensity to develop cancer in the future. It might also be someone who's been involved with a cancer patient, a cancer caretaker. And I think that all of us in the world today have been touched in some way, shape, or form by cancer. Somebody who knows somebody, or maybe even themselves, who have had cancer, whether it's very serious, life-threatening, or something more minor. But I think that we hear that word cancer and everybody gets really nervous about it. But I think the Brushes with Cancer program really creates an awareness and an appreciation for the creativity as well as the trauma that comes along with being diagnosed with any kind of a malady, any kind of an illness. So Jacqueline is an art therapist, and she's worked with the Twist Out Cancer program. She also sits on the board of directors for Twist Out Cancer. And her art therapy comes right in there for the Brushes with program. So Jacqueline, just tell us a little bit. I'd love for the audience to hear the story about how Twist Out Cancer even happened in the first place. So give the quick story on that, if you would.
Yeah, definitely. Twist Out Cancer was founded by Jenna Ben-Churcher, who is a gray zone lymphoma survivor. And during her own treatment, she really just wanted to hear about other people's experiences and get their twist on cancer, whether it was a dance or them describing a recipe that she couldn't taste, or artwork and installations all over the world. She really got a big following, which led to our first Brushes with Cancer event in 2012. And we've since become an international non-for-profit charitable organization and have, Brushes with Cancer events in Chicago, Tel Aviv, Montreal, Austin, Detroit, Philadelphia, and we continue to grow. And so it's just been an amazing opportunity for individuals who have been touched by cancer, like you said, if they're survivors, previvors, caregivers, loved ones, to be able to represent that story through a piece of artwork that's created by an artist, and just a beautiful way to celebrate that life and that story. So Twist Out Cancer has since grown. Not only do we do Brushes with Cancer as our signature event, but we are growing the Twist Out program, which is creative arts-based programming and wellness groups that are now virtual, but will be opening up in person as it becomes safer. And they are open to the public for anybody who wishes to join on to just share, connect, and heal through the group processing opportunity. So we are definitely growing these workshops, and we're seeing that there is a need for them in various places all over the US and internationally. So I'm excited to see them grow.
Well, you know, from Redwood's perspective, anything that surrounds the aspects of art and art appreciation, and the good that I think art and art therapy can do for any of us at any moment in time and at any age. And I think that that's one of the things that makes everything that you're doing so compelling. And I'm guessing that we've all been doing so much virtually over the last year and a half that that's one of the things that's definitely added to the viability and the world aspects of creating the greater popularity of your program. Kim, I know you're a cancer survivor.
Yeah.
Tell us how you came to the Brushes with Cancer program.
So I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer in 2019, and I had a very close friend from youth group from years and years and years before who was on the board of Twist. And we met for coffee right before I started chemo, and she suggested that I apply as an inspiration. So I applied and I was accepted, and I was paired with this phenomenal artist, Amanda Walker. And Amanda and I actually met after my second chemo treatment. And I remember sitting down with her, and she said, you know, tell me what you want from this experience. And I said, I want to be able to set my intention. I want to be able to say right now that I'm going to do all that I can to survive, and that I'm going to, you know, conquer this. And behind me, you'll see my artwork. And she really, I mean, she told my story. She, you know, from the beginning, it was, I felt like I was kind of in a volcano. And I wanted to come out of that volcano and rise and be free, and you'll see the butterfly. And she just really let me go on this journey with her, and it kept me focused and strangely feeling alive during a really difficult time, as you might imagine, in my life. Forever grateful to her.
I love the artwork that's behind you, because it is that, you know, incredible butterfly kind of coming out of the calyx and just taking off.
Yeah.
You know, with great vibrancy. The colors in the artwork are really tremendous.
Yeah.
So, and you're based in Austin, right? And was it the 2019 program there in Austin?
Yes, it was the very first Austin program. And it was so amazing because it brought together the artist community, the healthcare community, and the cancer community, and really just all of these other communities came together in support of one another. And you know, we started with 26 matches. The next year, last year, we had 32, and it was virtual. And just as powerful, I'll say, you know, when I left the 2019 program after being an inspiration, I walked right up to Jenna and I looked at her and I said, sign me up, put me on some committee. Like, this has literally changed my life and I want to be a part of it. So I was on the host committee last year for the virtual event, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And now our next event will be in March 2022 with both a virtual and a physical experience. So we're very, very excited about that.
Well, and I know that people will want to keep track of this, and you'll be able to see right on the RAVE website. If you just click under sponsors, you'll see Twist Out Cancer there, and you can just look at their sponsor page, and there's all the contact information if you want to be involved, or if you want to go to one of the gala events that'll be coming up later this year, as well as the Austin event that'll be in 2022. You know, I want to go back to you, Jacqueline, for just a minute. Tell us a little bit more about the Twist Shop program. You said that it's something that anybody, it's not just a cancer patient or survivor or caregiver that can be involved in that, but it really brings, you know, art into anybody's life. And so how does that work?
Definitely. So last year when we were kind of kickstarting the program, we didn't anticipate that they would all be done virtually, but it did really help a lot of our community and a lot of people who were just looking for that extra connection and art making to really just jump on the call and connect with other people. A lot of our themes can be fluid, not only with the cancer experience, but for somebody who's just struggling with mental health in general. And so we really see that camaraderie in the groups with people just connecting on just different aspects of life. And so we do cater to adults mostly in our virtual twist shops, but we will be doing family-based twist shops that invite children and parents who are, you know, working with their family on, you know, a family member who may have cancer. So we're really broadening the different types of themes and groups that we're bringing to the populations that need them. And we do understand one size doesn't fit all. So really getting that feedback from our participants and trying to accommodate to just give them the best experience that they can have virtually and in person. And really taking the wellness aspect to understand that just by showing up and signing on to a twist shop means that you are caring about your wellness, and we're not putting wellness in this category of striving to be the best or the most fit or the healthiest, just really honoring that our community is showing up for themselves, and that is number one when it comes to wellness, and just really honoring that experience for them throughout the twist shops.
So during a twist shop, what do you do? What would I be doing if I was on a virtual twist shop?
Yeah, so I will kind of use our upcoming one on Thursday, the 24th, as an example. So we will be doing a creative journaling course, which pairs with the art therapy experience. And so we begin by just giving a brief introduction of what the benefits of the therapeutic art making and creative journaling can bring to an individual that they can use as self-care outside of the twist shop. And then we will give them a prompt that will kind of open up their creativity and help them explore just different themes that maybe have been, you know, getting at them for a little bit, or something that might be stirring inside that they can come out throughout the art making or the journaling. And so we leave some time and space for them to create. And some people just like to sign on and observe. So creating is at everyone's comfort level, but if people just like to observe and watch other people make art on Zoom, sometimes that can just be really satisfying. And then we will do a check-in at the end, and if people wish to share, they can share, but we'll just process the experience and how to, you know, use those takeaways in moments of stress or anxiety moving forward, or how this can kind of be a stepping stone towards using creative art making or wellness for them in the future.
And because this is airing on the evening of the 24th, folks will have missed that that twist shop. How often do you do them? Are they once a month, or?
Yeah, we do have free virtual twist shops once a month. In July, we actually have 2 free events. One is on July 11th, which is a Sunday, and it's going to be a meditation and art therapy group. Myself and another facilitator, Ruth, will be co-leading that together. And so the meditation aspect will really teach our audience just the principles of getting into meditation. It's actually called Inviting Fear Over for Tea. So we're going to be exploring different fears in our life and how to kind of approach them, recognize them, and eventually process and figure out what we can do with them in a more productive way. So that will be July 11th. And then we also have an hour-long twist shop on the 29th of July, which is a Thursday.
Got it. Well, thank you, ladies, both for joining us this evening. And if you want to learn more about any of the programs, you can go to twistoutcancer.org and see all of the programs there, or just where you are tonight. You're right here on the RAVE site. Click up there on the sponsor tab and go to the Twist Out Cancer page, and it'll be all there for you. Thank you, ladies. It's been great being with you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.